Hey, this is Joey Falco, writer of the comic Heroes Godsend. Download the podcast, save the world.
Hey, Rebel Rousers, you're listening to the Primatech Files, a Southgate Media Group podcast dedicated to all things Heroes Prime and Heroes Reborn. I'm flying solo once again, but I'm joined by Heroes Godsend comic book writer himself, Joey Falco, for a quick look back at the previous two issues and hopefully a scoop on what's coming up in the final three issues. Welcome back, Joey.
Hey, Ricky. So fun to be back.
Yeah, just with me this time, unfortunately.
I know. I'll handle it.
Okay, so before we get into the Heroes Godsend, I was just listening back to the old podcast just before we got on.
Mm-hmm.
Just as we were ending, you were talking about writing a feature with Tim Kring. Just wondering, how's it going?
It's going well. It's just that features are slogs, and the process is brutal. And it's going well. We're working. Tim has a production company.
Yeah.
That they have several TV shows that they've got picked up. They have one going to series that Freeform called Beyond. They're doing pretty well. But this on the movie side, it's just really hard to make everybody happy sometimes with a feature script. And Tim and I have been working on it for months and months now, and we're getting closer. But it's really hard. It's a true story, and sometimes true stories don't make translating them and sort of tweaking them to make them more of giving them a sort of a cinematic structure, giving them thrills, giving them things that the true stories don't necessarily have is always complicated, because there are people that love the true aspects and there are people that then just would rather have just a thrilling movie. And so it's kind of navigating that line has been really tricky, but we're still going. There's still no update on it. There's still no news. But I'll let you know when there is.
Awesome. So also, when I was listening back, I completely forgot that we should have asked you, can you talk us through the kind of writer's room process of, when you're working on Heroes Reborn?
The entire writer's room process?
Oh, just a brief overview, if that's all right.
It's a wrestling match. It is, for Heroes Reborn, it was really particularly complicated because you have to do two things. Basically keep old fans happy while bringing new people into the world who had never seen the show. And that was really hard to do. And I think we had a lot of starts and stops at the beginning, a lot of arguments, a lot of different opinions about especially how to start the show.
Yeah.
The opening of the Reborn pilot was not the original opening.
Okay.
That, seeing the bomb, seeing HRG on that bench, seeing the butterfly, all of that was never the original opening. That was just sort of added several months later because we were realizing just how hard it was to kick off a new story. Again, navigating those two things. So that was particularly difficult part in the writer's room, was getting that right. And then after that, it's incredibly fun brainstorming and bouncing off each other's ideas, but it's a constant struggle. Just, you have a lot of opinions and you have a lot of pressure with a show like this, and I think it's great. But it's also again, the beauty of a show like this is that anything can happen.
Yeah.
And you can have people go off and suddenly decide that let's go back in time for a couple of episodes and discover that our two characters were actually Claire Bennett's babies, and we can prove how this happened, and we can go down this rabbit hole. And it's such someone throws out a wild idea like that, and suddenly you're going down that path for months, and get to see it happen. So it's a cool but crazy process.
Yeah, it's really funny. It started showing over here in England, and I found a lot of, because I'll live tweet it, and it's funny seeing all the same kind of reactions that I saw when the Americans were watching it. So like the whole, especially the whole, everyone's like, oh, Claire, how can she die? And I'm just like, every now and then it's just like, just give it some time.
Hold it. Yeah. And it was so painful hearing sort of original early complaints about some of the very few episodes, particularly about Claire. Just saying, this is impossible. This can't happen. But it's frustrating. I think it's especially nowadays, we're so used to binging everything.
Yes, definitely.
And we're so used to seeing the 13 episode story that when you're not allowed to do that, I think it really is starting to frustrate people.
But I think also a lot of people who were like talking about it, like the real fans, it felt like the 5 years had gone. The 5 years has obviously been too long, and they hadn't remembered how Tim and the writers would plan out their stories, and it would like they put a little nugget at the beginning, and it would like pay off in the end. And Yeah, I do agree with the whole binge-worthy kind of aspect of today's kind of TV culture. So yeah.
I think it just sort of fosters. It's like if you're watching something on Netflix, if you're watching, I mean, I love. I don't know if you watch Jessica Jones,
Yeah.
which was spectacular. It was probably my favorite superhero show
Mm,
outside of Heroes Reborn of the past year.
mm.
And there are things as I'm watching it that frustrate me and they raise a question, but I just click on and then I get the
Yeah.
answer, and so I don't have time to stew.
Mm.
And I think that it's going to be an increasing problem, I think, for a lot of serialized shows that are
Yeah.
not on your binge networks.
Definitely. Let's get off this topic now and let's get on to Heroes Godsend itself. So, was there anything from the first two issues that you really wished had made it onto kind of Heroes Reborn? I know last time you were talking about wanting to get more background into Farah during the episodes, but were there any particular points that you wanted to get in?
Well, I mean, it's a very different story. Obviously, it takes place quite a few years earlier, so plot-wise, none of this ever would have
Mm.
factored in. There were two scenes in Heroes Reborn that I think they were both shot. They just ended up on the cutting room floor. That sort of not that they pay homage to the Godsend
Mm.
comic. They were sort of there was one scene. One of the scenes was when we first meet Farah and Melina in episode 4.
Mm.
There was a scene where Farah really started to talk to Melina about faith,
Yes.
and this scene unfortunately never made it into the episode.
Mm.
It was shot and then it was cut
Yeah.
just because of time. It's just a minute we didn't have.
Mm.
But Melina was wondering, what she had been that hiker saw her in the woods and he got very upset when he saw her using her power, and she then talks to Farah and she says, why am I supposed to help? Why save a world that
Yeah.
doesn't even have me in it? And it sort of raised this question of belief and faith, and Farah was able to impart a little bit about her faith that
Yeah.
we would later learn that she learned in Godsend. So that unfortunately didn't make it. And then there was a scene when Angela Petrelli sort of tasks Farah with her protective role. It's in episode 8, I think,
Okay.
outside of that convent.
Mm.
And in that, there was a line that was cut in which she calls Farah the Godsend. She makes a reference to their Godsend days
Yeah.
or something like that, their New York
Okay.
days. And so it was just supposed to be a little bit of a wink at the comic, but again, these things never quite made it. So really, but the goal for me with the comic was always to explore a lot of the sort of faith-based, religious-based foundation to that character that we just didn't have the opportunity to do on the show because the show was just very busy. I mean, there were so many characters to service, and you can never go it as deep as you want to. So the comic was really all about that. And so the first issue does a lot of it, and then you'll see the fourth issue spends quite a bit of time dealing with her sort of religious background.
Awesome. Did you have any say in the artist you would be working with? And if no, do you know how the artist was chosen?
Basically myself and James Middleton, who was an executive producer on the show, have been doing sort of he and I are sort of the only two representatives of Heroes that really sort of day to day have been working on this comic. And so the publisher, Titan, out by you in London, they had about 3 or 4 artists that they were choosing between, and they sort of presented. I think each artist drew a cover page just to sort of what they would do with the character. And Roy Allan Martinez, who ended up doing the comic, just blew everyone else out of the water. It was just this stunning art. You look back at some of his things he did. He did this great Son of M comic from Marvel maybe 10 years ago that was just stunning. He has such a sort of visceral style that it has been amazing working with him. He just you just never have to give notes on his art because it's so much better than I ever could have imagined when I was writing the script to the comic. He elevates everything. So I could not be happier with Roy.
That's awesome. When were the scripts or when was the outline / comic written in terms of, during the production?
Yeah. Well, back in May, which was all we had shot at that point, was maybe episodes 1 and 2. We'd written maybe 7 episodes, 8 episodes. The publisher, we'd already been writing the Vengador comics. Seamus Fake and Zach Crayley had been writing that. They decided to do a second comic. We pitched ideas for it. I pitched this one. And they initially wanted to sort of hire a comic writer to do it. And because I've never written a comic in my life, I had to beg and beg and beg and beg and beg to be able to do this. So that was in May or June. I wrote the outline to the 5-issue arc, and they approved it. And then I guess I actually wrote the scripts that August and September while we were shooting episodes basically 11, 12, and 13. So the series had basically been locked in place before I was really writing any of this.
Okay, cool. Do you feel by like the end of issue 5, the character of Farah will be complete, or would you say like to revisit writing the character in, say, an ebook?
The story's only going to, as you'll see, the 5-issue arc is only going to bring us through some point in 2002.
Okay.
Farah's still a 22-year-old girl, maybe 22-year-old girl at the time. She's still very, as you can kind of tell by this voice, very kind of American, very kind of very different than she doesn't have that accent they use in the show. She doesn't have that kind of very stoic tone that Nazanin contractor used. A lot of that isn't there yet. This is just a young kind of naive girl. So she has a lot of growing to do. There's a lot of story that needs to be told in between those two periods. Will that story ever be told? I have absolutely no idea. That is so far outside of my purview. Maybe, hopefully, one day. I know Tim said he would after he read the first comic, Godsend, he said we need to, the world needs a Muslim, like a lead Muslim superhero character. Like, it's time.
Yeah.
And, so maybe we'll be able to do something with it one day, but I'm not sure.
Or at least a Muslim superhero leader in Team Farlos
in Team Farlos, yes.
Lilith has put it.
Farlos web series. That would be amazing.
I'm still trying to push VengaTruthers because I want to get all 4 of them together. So yeah,
that would be amazing. Yeah, I know Ryan Guzman just had a movie come out. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't seen it yet.
No, it's it's with Richard Linklater, isn't it?
With Linklater, everybody wants him. It looks fantastic. The reviews are great. I still need to go check it out. But yeah, between that and now Nazanin is the lead in a new NBC show, Chicago Justice. So these. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get them in a room together again. We'll see. It's going to be hard with their careers taking off.
Exactly.
We'll try.
Did you find it harder, easier, or the same amount of effort scripting a comic book versus, a teleplay?
Oh God, I'd say it's just such a different experience. For me, it was harder just because I've never done it. It was my first comic script. But you're basically with a comic script, you're writing and directing at the same time. With a teleplay, you write the script and you give it to a director, and then someone like John Jones, who directed our final 2 episodes of the show, will then add their visual flair and style, and they'll decide with the angles on a shot. With the comic script, I don't know if I did it the right way, but it's how I did it. Well, I don't know what the rules are. They didn't tell me anything. Each panel, you're writing the shot. If it were a TV show, you're writing the angle. You're writing exactly what visual look you want, and so. Of course, the artist interprets it, but you're very specific. At least I was maybe overly specific about what I wanted the panel to look like. So it wasn't just writing; it was writing and directing. So that added a lot of pressure. And I also once I saw the sort of outcome, I realized it was a great learning experience in terms of seeing when I thought in my head, oh, I want to see this, then this happened, then this moves, then this, and then you see that actually laid out on the page, and you realize the shots you were missing. And if unfortunately, there's no editing room as there is in a TV show where you can move shots around and things. You're kind of locked into the panel structure of a comic. But yeah, I don't know. It was just an awesome experience. I hope to do it again.
Were there any restrictions that were given about characters you could use in the story?
None at all. There was one. No one. It was kind of crazy how no one gave me any rules. It was just go, which was so amazing. It was so freeing to just be able to do whatever I wanted, because especially since the show was over, there was I wasn't stepping on any creative from the show, so I could really do anything, and people were just incredibly supportive. There was the only change, like from my original pitch on what this would be, was that when she goes into jail in the second episode, Angela tasks her to go to Rikers Island. It wasn't Linderman that she was there to break out. It was Peter. It was Peter Petrelli.
Oh.
And actually, there was no Jamal character in the comic at all.
Okay.
Farah. Basically, the idea was Peter had earlier in life developed powers earlier than 2006 when the first show started.
Okay.
Something went awry with his powers. He was locked up in Rikers over a mistake, and Angela wanted him, her son out. Farah breaks him out using her powers. Peter is an empath, so he was going to sort of share her camouflage powers to break out of jail.
Oh.
And then the two of them were going to have a little bit of a love story.
Oh.
And they were going to sort of do, well, you'll see what issues 3, 4, and 5. Basically, with the 5 issues, the first issue was introduce Farah, her background. Issue 2, let's tie her into the hero's mythology. Angela, HRG, Haitian, Linderman. Now, issues 3, 4, and 5 are going to be sort of an not independent, but like a sort of a standalone arc with its own villain, its own little arc. And as you'll see, Peter and Farah were going to sort of be the tag team in that little series. But I did get some pushback on using Peter, since it would have required a bit of a Haitianing of Peter at the end of it all, and it's. I think we were done sort of wiping memories and adding mythologies that didn't really belong there. So Peter was lost, but Linderman was an easy sort of place to slide in because it allowed you to bring in Melina and tie it into that aspect of the show so he can heal her. And Linderman being a criminal character, it sort of makes sense why no one's going to question why Linderman was in jail. He probably belonged in jail.
Yeah. Are there any more kind of old school characters that we can expect to pop up?
There will. It's not a spoiler. There won't be any more.
Okay.
After you'll see some of the same. You'll see Angela again.
Yeah.
You'll see HRG and the Haitian, but that's it for this series. It really, as I said, the 3, 4, and 5 are really about Farah's
little venture.
There's a villain there. It all ties into its own her little story in Astoria. Unfortunately, there's no. I mean, it was. A lot of the heroes' characters, again, in 2002, didn't have their powers yet. It just would have been very tricky.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it's just because I was looking at the next cover and there was like spiders everywhere, and I was like, me and Lilith were discussing it and was like, there wasn't any old school characters who could do like who had bug control, and then all of a sudden we were like, oh, maybe it's Maury Parkman. But
because it would have had to have been an old character.
Yeah,
old, very old character to work, but no, I love that spider art that Roy did. By the way, he crushed it. No, the spider storyline is completely and it does tie into the mythology a little bit, but it's not. Ooh. It's not related to any specific character.
Founders, yay! No, I'm joking.
No, Linderman was the only. I guess are all we're gonna get.
I love it. Just like trying a theory craft and you're just shooting them down straight away. Love it. Okay, so time for Ricky's pedantic corner. So, when the Haitian is beating up on HRG in the second issue, he talks, and HRG isn't at all surprised by it. This is before, obviously, Heroes Season 1, and I'm sure I recollect HRG like not knowing at all that he could talk. He always thought he was a mute. So is that just timey-wimey, or is it Haitian? He got Haitian later on.
That is a total fuck up on my part.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right.
No, it's not. If he Haitianed him. No, it's fine.
Well, he could certainly Haitian him.
Exactly.
But he's not going to Haitian him in this series. But it never actually crossed my mind.
Sorry about that. No, he Haitianed him. We'll go. No. And also, I was just wondering about the two Angelas. Does this kind of explain how they know about each other kind of in the future, or why you've got the younger Angela in the car with Melina? The younger Angela in the comic. In the comic. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is meant to tee up. Okay. The two Angelas together were meant to tee up some of the sort of lingering questions about them and their knowledge in the show. Because I think if there's anyone who can handle there being two, it's Hero and Angela. So yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, she exactly. You can imagine that she's had long conversations with herself, scheming and plotting how they're going to do things as they move forward. So yes, I that was sort of a side goal. I think there were a lot of questions about Angela going back, and did she cross paths with the other characters? Mm-hmm. And it sort of raised a lot of issues, and I kind of wanted to just address that head on and see them talk to each other. Yeah, Heroes has never been about sort of ripples in the space-time continuum. If characters intersect, there's not going to be a spontaneous combustion or anything. So since Hiro Nakamura managed to do it, exactly. But I don't know. I thought it would be cool. I just thought it would be cool to see her talk to herself.
She's such a creeper that fun to double her up.
Nice.
But
Cool.
you're oh my god, I'm so mad about the Haitian thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh well.
So sorry.
Hopefully you're the only person that catches that.
Okay, so I think I've taken up more than enough of your time. So you've given us more than enough answers about what we can hope to expect, and yeah,
Fantastic.
awesome. And hopefully we will get you back for once the run is over and we can talk more about it.
Yeah, we'll talk again I guess it's in July. I think
Yes.
the final issue should come out.
Cool. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you all for listening to the podcast. Hope you found it entertaining and informative. And until next time.
Keep the rebellion alive.